So one more time, hi everybody, and have a nice evening, as we are all based in more or less in the same time zone as far as I know. So we have all evening, and I'm going to talk about the Nuxt.js and the headless CMSs and the JAMstack, and basically how to use the power of the decoupled web and the CMSs. So my name is Samuel Snopko, as you've already heard. We are going to go headless with Nuxt.js, and this is a hands-on experience. So the point of the talk is like to show you the code, show you some demos, some examples, how you can work with it. And the point is like you at the end of the talk, hopefully you will be able to even pick up some stuff and use it maybe even next day. So this is definitely not a theoretical talk. And at the end of the day, I have only 6 slides, I think, right now. So the first slide was already the name of the talk. The next one is me, so that's the face and my face, and you can also saw me and introduced myself. So I'm doing right now to have the developer relations at Storyblock. Storyblock is headless solution or headless CMS, which cool feature we have is the visual editor, and I will show you a little bit more about it with Nuxt.js together a little bit later. I'm tweeting as Samuel Snopko, so you can just go and find me at Twitter. You can find me, write me a message and direct messages if you have any questions about me, Storyblock, JAMstack, Nuxt.js, Vue.js. So I will try to answer some of the questions. Maybe too much for me because I am not coding lately as much as I want, but I'm still very happy to do a lot of demos. So here is the URL of GitHub. So everything I'm going to do, you will find in this repo. So if you go to github.com, storyblock/talk blazingly fast Nuxt.js, you will find also the starting point of the presentation, are basically like before and after part. And now I'm going to tell you how to work and with Nuxt.js and how to start the project, in my opinion, because I was working in the past times long with Nuxt.js. I was starting a different project. I was even trying to build my own starting templates. But at the end of the day, and all my experience in agencies, I find out the best way with starting with modern technologies like Nuxt.js, you just go for use the Korean Nuxt app. In the next word, they have a very similar approach also. And this main reason why you should do this is that it will get you through the step-by-step tutorial. Or like step-by-step guide where you will choose all the necessary stuff. And most importantly, you always have the latest up-to-date stuff in your project. Because if you are doing on your own, it's almost impossible to keep it updated. Or you will spend more time updating everything than updating than really using. So now I just choose the project, which was already pre-filled at the beginning. I'm still using the JavaScript. You can already use also the TypeScript with Nuxt. Here I'm like still using the Yarn. Even I heard that 9 PM is now faster, but I still stick to the Yarn. I will be using the Tailwind, but you can see already that here they offer already directly integration with many other frameworks, UI frameworks. And I'm going to use and install Axios because we need Axios to request the data from the Storyblock, the headless CMS. Then I'm not going to do any linting, any preter, but I'm definitely recommending you to use and choose those. It's very important if you are building like a huge, bigger project. Also testing, I'm not going to do any tests because in the case of the presentations or demos, it's usually like just slowing down everything. We would go for universal application today, but the single page application or SPA is also like no problem. The universal application, that's the server-side rendering or static site generation. So this is something which you can always usually also later configure directly in the Nuxt.js and in the config file. Then I would normally be going for static JAMstack hosting, but again, you could go also for the server. And this is like a really nice thing about Nuxt.js, that it's already come with all this pre-configured stuff that you can just very quickly do. And then after all the installation, just in this case, I'm going to choose the JS config because I'm going for VS Code. And you can set up the GitHub, which GitHub username and the Git. You will get basically the full-blown project set up with everything you need. So how does it look like? Is something like this. This is the project basically after waiting maybe 1 minute of the installation. You will get to the point where you see that I'm just running my localhost. So I here started. Just give me a second, and please tell me if you can't see or read it. Here I just run the yarn dev to save some time to us. And you can see that my project is already running on the localhost 3000. So what now I need to do is basically jump to the localhost 3000 and see what if it's running. Local, and give me a second. I just click because I cleared my cache and now I'm like really confused because autocomplete is not working. So here you would enter on the similar website where already Nuxt.js will point you also to the right documentation. So you can already get all the information you need. So this is the first step. Just check it out if everything is up and running. This is in theory also a ready website that can be deployed to the Vercel, Netlify, AWS, or any other services, which again, you would just go to the service. They have usually also the Nuxt.js have a really nice deployment tutorials. If you would go to Nuxt.js and look for the deployments directly on the website, and you just need to have a one config file, and basically you are done to deploy something. So now, as you can see, my front end or my website is kind of running, but it still doesn't have any data. The data I can see on the local host is just simple welcome page, but nothing more. What we need to do next is like set up our content management system, as we are going to build a website which we are able also to edit. We want to put there some blog posts and maybe also like change some pictures, etc., etc. So we are going to do this exactly right now in the few steps, and we tried to do like something with some very nice POC. So what you can do is like go to the storyblocks.com. Here you can sign up and create your own account, of course, because the Storyblocks, as most of the headless CMSs, as a software as a service, and it's cloud-based, and you will find it directly there. So you don't have to like install anything basically, or like create your own backend. After getting to the app, so here, you will get to the overview of all your projects. So you can see here all my experiments, and I have told them. So you can build the e-commerces, you can have different roles in different projects, you can work on multiple clients, and all of those you will see basically here. But what we are going to do today, we are going to create something from scratch. So let's create a new space we call the projects. No, there is no particular reason for that, but the space basically is a group of content that will be consumed by the website, maybe some endpoint like Alexa and Watchpoint, any Apple Watches. So anything where you can say data through the API, you can use this headless CMS or the Storyblock. So here I would like to now get some simple name, because I already created some, because if I would need to type everything, that would be very, very awkward. So here I am going to be your guide. So this will be something we are going to close. And I should also mention that probably in a few weeks, you would also see the fully switch here to the V2. So basically, don't be afraid of that. If this is going to change a little bit, we are improving the stuff and it will look much better. So what we have right now we have a space where we have a content. So it is like something very similar that you have in most of the CMSs. There's some dashboard where you have information about the space, what's going on with your content. You have a content where you will be taking care of your content, of course, some text, assets library with the image service and all that stuff, the components, so where we will be also configuring our components later for our CMS. So for our project. So whatever is that a button or even a banner or something bigger or website. Then, of course, we have some apps that we can install and the settings. We get to some of these points, but let's jump to the content and understand what we are going to have here. So at the moment, we just have one story, and the story representing a page. So it's content type page, and in this case, it's representing our index page. If I click on it, I could go to the visual editor and start to editing. The one part is that they call it the visual editor, but you can see there is still the visual part is not working. And here is basically saying like, hey, welcome to visual editor. And I would like to see our local host, which I already showed you, directly here that I can edit it and experience the real-time editing of the website. On the right-hand side, however, I will see my content. And at the moment, we already have some demo or dummy components, which are predefined. So it's just a teaser and grid, and we will create some more that we will also show us how to do that. So in this teaser, I would be also able to change it. So if I would like to change this to hello Vue.js Leipzig, then I can very easily change it. I could like also publish it. And then of course I would like see also the content. I can get it through this API, REST API or GraphQL, it's fully up to me. And then I'm able to use this content. I know this is maybe a gibberish, but or gibberish as is correctly said. And then you don't want to take this at the moment in consideration. So now I just wanted to show that you can publish it there and get the content. But let's talk about how to make it working, because we have something Storyblok, but we still didn't connect it to our project. So basically our front end, how to do that. So in general, what you can do is just go to your project and jump to the package.json. So normally you need to install only one package. As we already installed the Nuxt.js, also the Axios, I would also recommend you to always use and install the .env file for keeping all the security files. But what we are going to install is the Nuxt, here, the Storyblok Nuxt module. So this Storyblok Nuxt module, you will install just yarn install or yarn at Storyblok at Nuxt, and you are ready to go. What this is going to do is add the module that will connect your Nuxt project directly to the Storyblok. So if I now go to config, Nuxt.config.js, I can find out and configure all my modules. And here I can see that there is a configuration for my Storyblok module. So here, as you can see, it needs an access token. So this is the way how we will get the content, and we can also like double check if the request is valid, and we can get you the content you are requesting. The access token, of course, in Storyblok, you have the draft tokens and publish tokens, so fully up to you. So let's get the token from the Storyblok. So first, an easy way to get the token is that directly here, we already created one token for us. So I can use this token, which is a draft token by default. But if I now jump back, I would go to settings, you can create a multiple tokens, also like a public or even for assets. If you have some private assets and you don't want to make them publicly available. So now what I did is I added my token, I saved it, and I see that also the project already rebuilt. So I can see that still the project is running. There are no errors so far, but I still don't see any changes in the visual editor. So this is like a kind of important part of the whole process, because we want to really give the access to all of the creators, marketers to experience and play with the content and see that in the real time, because this is really a powerful tool for them. So for that, we need to change this URL. As you can see here, it says that it's your server address /home. So the home here is the name of the story of this page in this case. And in this case, I could add also the multiple priorities. But first of all, I would like to get here probably the localhost. So let's grab the localhost here. I will just copy paste it, and let's go to the settings one more time and see the change. So here I go to the settings and go here in the general, you will find out that there's by default location. I just added a quick start. So I want to change it to localhost, and even I could add multiple preview environments or preview URLs. So I could like create something like development. Oh, sorry, I just did want to click that. I can create a localhost always. I mean, here you would, of course, add the different URLs. So for example, if you would have a deployment to Versa, there would be a Versa URL or maybe Netlify URL, etc. And here you can have also something like a redesign where you are using a different CSS or maybe even different framework as a Vue.js. So you are switching between the Vue 2 and Vue 3, or even to the something like a React or Svelte. So let's say that I just added some default preview URLs, and here I added also changed my default environment to localhost. So now I would like to do the development basically only in the Storyblok, that I can be as much flexible as possible and see all the changes. So now if I go to home, I should see the change. And you can see that I am getting error. And this is those few times in the life of the developers when I say I am allowed to say that this is a good error. And the good error is because this is the error from the Nuxt. You can see it here on the left bottom side. And what basically is this error about is that, as you can, if you know a little bit something about the Nuxt, and what is also really nice about the Nuxt, that you can handle the routing directly by the Nuxt by not creating a special router. I mean, you can do that if you want, but you can use a very easy approach and use their pages folder. So here in the pages folder, I have only the index file. I don't have any dynamic routes, anything like that. So my Nuxt project doesn't know what I mean with a localhost 3000/home. So basically my index page in Nuxt project lived on the empty slash, but here I would like to have a home. This is easily to fix. Either way, I could like rename this to home. I could write a router which will redirect to this index in this case, or I can go also tail in Storyblok to the this story or this page that, hey, this page is preview of empty slash because the home is an exception. So let's save it now. And we should see now our preview. As far as I know, I have zoomed a little bit the website, so that's why it's maybe so huge. To make it a little bit smaller that you can see it. And now we already see our content. So I see here the content of the local host, but I still don't see the components here. And the components here, I could like edit, I could change the content as you can see, but I don't see the content directly on my page. So what I need to do to see that content, because this is probably what we would like to get and experience that. So we already set up the Nuxt config. We don't need to do anything more else than anything else here directly. We just need to now talk about the components. How the Nuxt.js or Vue works is that you can create a multiple components. As I can see, I have some components predefined and I have ready for them to work with. So here in the story block, however, I also created some components. So I didn't save it. Give me a second. So these components I created here are the feature, grid, page, and teaser. So basically, I know that this is my content type page. I could create multiple of them, and then I have 3 components. And these components are already sending to my framework. Sorry, are not still sending, but I need to render them also with the Nuxt.js. So if I open here, for example, the teaser, I can see that teaser is basically teaser. The name of the component is a teaser, and there is only one field, which is type text. Very easy component. And in the case of grid, I have something special, but let's first look on the feature. Here on the feature, the same thing. I had just one field called name, and I would like to probably render something for it. In the case of the grid, if you go inside, you will see here is a field which is called columns. And this means that you can add inside any other nest-table component. So what I mean with that, as you can see here, I had a special top type blocks, and inside here, I can define which components are allowed to be used directly in this field. So here I can whitelist, for example, only the features, and then I will be not able to add inside the columns any other components, and I will demonstrate that in a second. So let's save it. And then finally, I have here a page, which is a content type. And the page has also only one field, which I added, but you can add there more if you need. And here in this body, I have only a block type. Again, the same approach where I allow to be added all the components, and I'm not going to set any more rules to confuse you. One more thing that I didn't mention right now is that there are 2 types of components in story block, which are content types. So the content types are used to create the stories. That could be a landing page, outdoor page, article page, product page, web page. So basically all the types of pages, but not necessarily always the pages, because sometimes you can want to create a component or entity that is just referenced in different other entities in your content management system and is not represented by the page or any visual representation or URL. The other option we have is nest-table components, and these nest-table components are the components that you can nest in other components, not only the content types, but also the nest-table components, which I already showed you here in the grid, where I said that, hey, you can nest here inside the field called columns, only the component which is called featured. How does it look like directly in practice? So if I go to content and open the home, you will see that I can add here the block, and I see that this page, which is an index page, is type page here. I can see again here the same schema, which is the field body. And into the body, which is one field, I can add a different components. So here I can see that I can add a feature, grid, teaser, or I could create like multiple more components, which I do a little bit later in this demo. Then, of course, in the grid here, if I would go, I see that I already added here 3 features. I could edit them. I could like reorder them. But if I try to add a new one, I already add a block. I didn't get the option because I limited the options only to features. If I would go to the definition of column and remove this whitelist, then of course I would be able to add all of the components because I didn't do any restrictions. And that means also that I have to catch this special case in my framework. But let's talk about that later. So let's for now limit it to features and make it quite easy. So save it. And now what I'm getting here, if I publish this website, I see that I have here the teaser and grids. And if I go to publish JSON, then you will see that here I also getting the same thing. So I have a page which is called home. I hope it's big enough. Let's make it bigger. So I have here the page, which is called home. And see that this is a type page, so content type, and I see it consists a body. So the field that I created there, and this field body consists two objects. And these objects are, of course, here the same body and two objects. So teaser and the grid, and same it will be here. If I open it, you see that this is the component, teaser, and headline is this. If I would add here like multiple different fields, then you would see also them, and I will show that also later. And here in this case, the same thing. You can see this is the grid component, which consists of the columns. And there are 3 columns, 1, 2, 3, which are the features I just showed you. So now this was a little bit maybe a theory, but this is important because this needed to be understood before we build and use our components in the Nuxt.js. So what we are going to do the Nuxt.js to build a website. So we need to create the same or like the components that will kind of mirror the same components that I have this kind of system to build my website. So for that, I go to the components here, and you see here in the component that I already pre-created some Vue.js components. That's the default stuff as the normal Vue. So here, if I go to teaser, you will see that I have a template and I have a script. And in this case, I don't use a CSS or styling because I am using the Tailwind. So the styling is directly here. So what I'm doing here is basically the teaser consists of simple H2, and I'm going to render some headline. So exactly the same headline I have here on the teaser. I have a field headline. Then, of course, I will get this object or this data through the blog.headline, and the blog is a prop that I will be getting from a parent of this teaser, which I will show in a second. Then, of course, I have here the feature, the same approach. I have the div, which render the H2 with the name. And again, I will get the same content through the blog. And then I have here the grid, which we already talked about. This is where it's getting interesting, because here in the grid, we do a little trick, which is really nice, especially in the Vue.js. And it's not possible to do that in the React very easily. But here in Vue.js, you have something called a dynamic component, because normally, as you could remember, if I would go grid, I can add here any blocks, and I didn't like define it's always features. So it could be like sometimes it could be a teaser, some by features, some different types of the features. So I need to be a dynamic. So, and here, because of this, I am here rendering the undefined list of the items. And here I am then rendering the component, which is not known in the moment as I'm writing the code. And here I will send the block, so my data inside. And here is the special is property, which you can send in blog.component, and this will decide which component do you want to render. So do you want to render the teaser, or do you want to render the feature, or maybe page, or maybe any other component? So here the blog.component basically return the value you could see already in the JSON I showed you. So in the case of the teaser, this is the blog.component, because whole this object is the block. And then the whole this block we will send down to the component of the Vue. So here we decide, okay, you are a teaser. So let's render this teaser in this case. And here as a block, you will send that original block. So you will get in that also the headline that you have also ability to render the content of your teaser. The same approach exactly I'm using also for the page. So again, on the page level, I don't know what I'm going to render and in which order, because you can see here on the page, I can have a teaser, grid, I could also one more feature, and then I have a dynamic list of components. I can have multiple of the such fields inside. So because of that, I'm here rendering the component in the order that I'm getting that from the JSON, and I'm going to then very easily render it. So what now? Why I don't still see it? So there's two things. First of all, we need to enable the components. So here, as you can see, the components true. This is very important because Nuxt can automatically import your component and find out when you need which component. This is a really cool feature, which worked also with the dynamic component. So you'll see in the feature second. And the second problem is that we still didn't write the code that will request the data from the story block. So for that, I need to now run into the pages, into the index page, because in this demo, we are doing only the index demo. And I need to remove the code of the welcome page from the Nuxt theme. So I don't need any more of this. And I will like uncomment my code that we can do. So I will get to just commenting in a second. I just don't need any more the logo here. because we are not going to do the logo, then I need this script, which will load the data, and basically all the styling from the Nuxt theme I can remove. So we don't need it anymore because we are using the tailend. So what did I just did in this moment? So first of all, I just saved, and the Nuxt is recompiling just for you to prove. And here I am just finding out which content type I want to render. So here the story.content.component will send me which page I'm going to render. So you can see that it's already working, but you can also see here that if I go, then I have a story, I have a content, and the component is the page. So here in this is will send me that, hey, render the page. So this is how you can have a dynamic pages even. I could also replace this directly with a page and it would work, but I don't want to do that at the moment. I want to keep it dynamic. So here I have something like a skeleton of my data. So in this case, it's just like expect story, and the story will have a content with empty object, which is like nice to have, not something that you have to force. And then I am using the async data hook here in this case, which is not necessary. You can do it also different approaches, but I'm using the async data hook and asking Storyblock for data because I already installed the Storyblock module. If you remember, I added that token. So I am not now able to use some function for Storyblock in the Vue.js project. So in this Nuxt Vue project, I'm able to go to context app as the Storyblock API and get the data of the home story. The home story, if you remember, is this one. And also it's something you can see here that it's home and the slug of this content is a home. So I'm just basically now statically saying like, hey, give me the home content. Of course, this is just for the purpose of this demo, but if you would like to go for dynamic, then you will find out the slug through the root of your project. So if you are going to /block/article number 1, then you can find it out with the line like this. Or, of course, in this case, we are also hard-coded that we always getting the draft content and not taking care of like if it's production environment, it's draft environment, but you can also take care of that using this line where you will find out the version according to the environment where you are like, of course, deploying your project. So in this case, let's get the home, let's get the draft version. Let's forget the resolve relations for a second. I will get it later. And then basically I will just get the response, which is the JSON I already showed you. And the JSON I will then, of course, here, as you can see, replace, where is that? Here is the rest.data. So I basically send it directly here in this data and get it. If I now save it, you already see that I have my data directly here. So I can see it in my preview. If I would go to localhost, I will see also the same preview of hello Vue.js Leipzig. And I can also start editing. So I can add a new feature. I can like say like this is a new feature. Then I could like save it, but I don't see the I don't see the update, so I have to manually reload it, and then I see the new feature. This is all cool, but still, I said like it should be a real-time editing experience and not just a preview of my content. So from this reason, I think we can do better because we have Vue.js or Nuxt, and by the way, this is also already working. We have a model for Nuxt 3 and the Nuxt 2, so it's fully up to you what you want to use. And what I mean with that is like we have the, oh, I forgot the word, the reactivity. Yes, that's the word. We have in the Vue.js the default reactivity. So let's make it reactive. So here I have a little commented code for the reason because I wanted to present to you how it would look like thanks to the Storyblock bridge module. So we find a way to load and bridge the visual editor, which is an iframe with content editor on the right-hand side. You can see some edits already. And what does it mean is that here, using the Storyblock bridge, which you already installed also with that module, you then can basically create an instance of it, and then you can listen to input, publish, and change even inside the visual editor of the Storyblock. So it will work only in there and only with the draft content. And in the production, you will just kick this part of the code out and you will not slow down your website at all. And then in the case of input even, you will be replacing this story.content with the content from the event. So basically you will be in real time updating this story. And in the case of save and publish, you will also reloading your website. So basically this code, which is already, I think like 20 lines of code, if in the latest module, which was published, I think like this week by my colleague Alex Cover, then he even was able to push this down, and it's getting only to I think like 3 or 4 lines, because it's something that's very often repeatable. And index to that, you can get a real-time editing experience. So what I mean with that is that if I hover here, you already see some highlights. This highlights is just added into this visual editor, and these showed you what are the components of a representation here on the right-hand side. So I can now click here, and I see that this is a teaser, this is a grid, this is a feature, this is a feature, and I can hear the green highlight what I clicked. Also, the form here on the right-hand side is changing as I'm clicking. And not only that, it works also the both ways. So if I would like to change this headline, then I will see in that moment also the real-time change. I can like move the stuff around. I can duplicate the content. I can go and change all the features, of course, and then without the save, I still didn't save. I didn't create a draft version. I am just preparing this content. I don't have to have a fear of experimentation. I can look if it works even on the mobile, does it work on the tablet, etc., and then save it only if I'm happy. And if I'm even not happy with it, I can still go to the original version and just restore very easily the original content and still have this additional experience. This works also with the pictures and other stuff, which is really, really awesome. And additional to that, you can do also like directly that in like we call it like, now I forgot the menu, how we call this menu. So you can like move the stuff around, or you can like delete it directly from here, or like add a block after and before. So for example, I can add feature here and then write the name of it. So it's really, really handy how you can use it. But this is a very simple demo still. And I said, like, let's create something with a blog post or something that where we show some content. So let's imagine that this is like the basics. How does it work? And what you can do with that. But now is the question how you can create a real components, not the default demo components. So let's imagine that I would like to write some articles, and I am going to create also. If I now go to the components, at first, I need to create some article. So I will create a component called article, which will be a content type. And I'm going to add there a few fields. And I have the fields prepared here that I'm not doing the typos. So I want to add hero image. Yeah, a hero image. And of course, I will be title, intro, author, and prose. So the text where I would write the content. Then you see I just added 5 fields. Here, the hero image probably should be an image. So let's do it as asset and limit it to images, of course. The title, I would go for a text and probably make it required. Let's say the intro, that would be usually the longer text. I mean, like we could go for rich text or markdown, but let's go for text area. So it will be like just simple. The author is tricky. In this case, I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm going to make it single option. So the single option means that I can select the one author, of course, and the authors I'm going to not define in some external sources as you can do, but I'm just going to define authors directly here. So let's make a same here one, and let's do the Chris second. And the last thing is the prose. And here I would like to use the rich text, and maybe you can customize the toolbar, but let's for now just keep it like this. So I just created the article. And this all, I just defined my article. Very simple. I mean, like normally I would make it much more complex, but here, this is for demo sake, it's like just keep it like this. And now I don't have any code still in Nuxt.js to represent it, but I'm not blocking my containers. And this is the cool part about the headless and the decoupled frontend and backend, is that I can allow my writers, creators, or marketers, or whoever would need to create the articles to create those articles, even without seeing them. So let's make a folder, which will be called articles. And here I would like choose that you can add also article inside, and I would define a new folder. Here in the articles folder, let's create 3 articles. So article number 1, and here I have some default content already. So I don't have any preview, so I don't know how should do render. So in this case, you can always hide the visual, so I can minimize and just focus on the creating the content. This is handy, for example, if you write articles, you don't need to always see the visual representation. So let's add here some intro. I would add here some title, of course. So let's say the Nuxt.js is awesome. Let's upload an image. So image number 1 I have here. And I mean, we could set the focus point and other stuff, but let's just upload the image. And I will choose myself as author. And here you would write your article, of course, with all the styling, etc. So I just created the article, first one. Let's save it and let's go back. Let's duplicate and create 2 more. So duplicate, and for the sake of visual changes, I'm going to change mainly the images that we see some different previews. I will also change this to Storyblok is cool. And this is updated, and maybe make this Chris. And let's save this. And then the final one will be copy, and let's number 3. And then if I go to number 3, again, upload an image number 3. Here, I just confirm it, and let's do Vue.js-Leipzig rocks. This is always the most stressful part, that I write correctly the name of the conference. So now I created like 3 articles, imaginary articles, very simple. Of course, you can let's publish them to make it public. And now I would like to tease them on the homepage. So make it the area where it will be highlighted. These are some of them. So instead of this feature, let's remove this one. I would love to see the articles here. So how to do that is I would probably need a special component which will be called featured articles. So let's very quickly create that featured articles component. So I will create something called featured, yes, correct, no typo, articles. It will be nestable, and my family is home. So if you heard some background noises, and here I would like to by hand pick some articles that will be featured at the homepage. So I'm going to add a field called articles here inside this. This will be probably a multiple articles. I'm going to choose a type multi-option. And here as a source, I'm going to choose the stories. So I can choose the articles which I want to now highlight. And here I would like to, for example, of course, let's limit it to article folder, or I could also limit it to the type. That will be basically the same approach. And I could main that I can add a maximum of 3 or pick maximum of 3 articles. So let's save it. And that's it. So again, I don't need to create more. If I go to content now and go to home, and I would try to add block, I already see the featured article here because I didn't have any restriction here. And if I add it, and I see already some yellow blocks, so I will get to that because this means that the auto import of the Nuxt is working, is already fine. And I can start picking even the articles. And if I pick the articles, you can see the pre-teasers of the articles with image, headline, a little bit intro, and the author. There is some bug which we need to fix, but first let's talk what I did and why does it work here. So what happened just now, that I just created some teaser articles, which is a preview. You could see it. And also in this Nuxt here, I already prepared a featured articles component. As you can see, this is already a real stuff, much more code, a much more good sample of a component. And here you can see that I have here div, which is the yellow basically title that I forgot to add to the featured articles. So basically say that these are the featured articles. And then I am rendering here the unordered list of those articles. But here again, I'm using a little trick, which is awesome because the frameworks of Vue, Nuxt are component-based, that I can create a sub-component called article teaser, which will get the data from those articles and then render the data. So here I'm rendering 3 article teasers. And again, the same approach as before, I'm just getting my content through the blog. So if I just very quickly jump to the article teasers here, then you can see that here I'm rendering some resized image. Of course, I'm rendering the title, intro, and author. And here in this case, I just call the article content the props instead of block. The resized image is using our image service of Storyblok. So here I'm just adding some filters and resizing the images to 300, 250, that I am also all the images in the same resolution and they look nice next to each other. So, okay, this was done. So, but there's still this error of the yellow box, so we should fix this so that we here we expect that .title block .title content. So what we need to do is basically fix the featured articles here and add a title here. So I will add a title here, and I can move it on the top, of course. Then save it as it's already text and call it featured articles, and then I can already publish it. I have a nice preview, and I can still reuse these featured articles. So for example, let's say that I would like to create and copy paste this featured articles, add it here. And here I would like to rename it maybe to Sam's articles. And then I'm, of course, unselect the article from the Chris. I could publish it. And even if like here on the bottom, I will find out that I would like to have the Chris article at the first one, I can also reorder it because it's working. The good question, if I showed you the publish JSON, and that's the last thing that I'm going to show you in the code, and then we'll finish with the presentation and you can ask, is that how this is work? Because if I look here down on the component featured articles, we don't have the content of the articles here. So this was like good question. Like usually for this is use the GraphQL or some other approaches where you can do one request and the second request, or in the GraphQL will say that what all you will want to get from the API. The approach we here do with the REST API is that here in these cases where we have also the references to other components or stories inside the story block, you can do resolve relations. So here you could already notice in the index.vue that I had here this resolve relation on two places where I said that I would like to resolve the relation from a component named featured articles and resolve the relation of the field articles. So it's here in the mounted event. And also here in the async data, there's easy way to make it also that this definition is one place, or also even in the future, we are improving the modules and packages that will make it much easier. And this will let our API know that, hey, instead of the EIDs or UIDs of the articles, you would like to do real content. So then if the page get here, here as we are looping through the content, and in the case of the featured articles, so as we will be rendering like all this, instead of getting just UIDs, we will get there all the content, and then down through the stream, through the featured articles, you are already sending here the real content of the article instead only of the UID. And that's it. So that's the awesome magic behind. And of course, and that's my daughter, by the way. She's two, so she's fighting for all the rights, you know. And now that's how you can reuse it. You can then, of course, reuse these components on different components inside the Nuxt.js. You have like different like options. You can set here like a styling options with all the styles. And then in the Vue, you will just basically apply a different styling, maybe a different logic or whatever you'd like to. But that's already a little bit more, which you can also try by yourself. And if I jump back to the document presentation, basically that's also, you will find all on the storyblock.com tc/Nuxt.js. So we have a whole technology hub just about the Nuxt.js. Also about the other frameworks, if you would be interested, like Gatsby, React, Next.js, PHP, etc. And here you will then also can continue on the demo and basically finish and creates the tutorial through the tutorial a multi-language website which looks like this using the Next.js and the Vue. And that's it, basically almost all from me. First of all, I still want to thank you to the awesome organizers here that they are doing and using their free time. The whole also Vue team and all the organization behind, like the Nuxt team who are building the tools, and also like the Storyblock team who make possible that I am speaking here. And I'm not, because all of this is the magic that a lot of other people work on do. So I'm just getting the nice part of it. And finally, you want to try Storyblock? Here is the special URL landing page for you, so you can get 3 months for free. Usually you get 15 days of free on every space that you can try the themes or like the premium features, but here you can get it using this link. You can get 3 months free premium features. So go for it if you want, and make a screenshot. If not, then just tell me, and then I can also send you this link, and you don't have to make a screenshot. Thank you very much one more time.